5 COVID-19 deaths reported today. Total death toll in the island rises to 29. Quarantine process to continue despite curfew being lifted. Economic centres limited for wholesale purposes.
අපි කර්ෆියු අහක් කරනකොට පැහැදිලිවම කියන්න ඕන ක්වරන්ටයින් අහක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක. ඒක හරියටම ඒ විදිහටම කියන්න ඕන.
Over 130 COVID cases reported from Colombo. Central Mail Exchange closed down. Bus fares to be amended amid the COVID-19 outbreak. US election results to be further delayed. Positive response from the Presidential Task Force on hosting LPL.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Thursday's edition of Primetime News. You're with me, Joel Outsgoon. We start off today with a look at our top story. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has advised the officials attached to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 prevention to ensure that the quarantine process is strictly adhered to even when quarantine curfew is being relaxed.
We should clearly mention that the removal of curfew will not result in the removal of quarantine processes. It should remain. Right now, due to curfew, everyone is restricted from travelling. We should ensure that those undergoing home quarantine continue to do so even after curfew is relaxed. We need to identify those houses. We need to ensure that over the next few days. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 prevention convenes daily under the patronage of the President. Addressing the meeting today, the President noted that special attention should be paid towards tracing close contacts of COVID-19 patients if they are discovered from society, adding that areas where the patients are discovered from should also be closely analysed. He also noted that those areas should be declared as isolated areas if the need arises. It has also been decided at today's meeting to restrict activities at the dedicated economic centres to only wholesale trade. The President has also instructed that trade should be conducted following strict health guidelines with PCR tests being conducted continuously. It was also instructed to conduct random and continuous PCR tests at the dedicated economic centres under the supervision of the Ministry of Health and the Sri Lankan Navy with the support of private hospitals.
Sports Minister Namal Rajapaksa says that the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 prevention has issued a favourable response with regards to the commencement of the Lanka Premier League cricket tournament without any further delay.
Posting a tweet on his official Twitter handle, Sports Minister Namal Rajapaksa said that Sri Lanka cricket had received a positive response from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 prevention to host the LPL tournament. The minister had expressed his gratitude towards President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa for taking action in this regard. He further added in his tweet that this reflects the government's efforts to adapt to the new normal and restore normalcy in the country. When Newsfirst inquired whether the tournament is organised adhering to the 7 and 14 days quarantine procedure, the Lanka Premier League tournament director Ravin Vikramaratne said that the tournament is being planned under a 7 and 14-day quarantine procedure. He further added that he hopes the tournament will commence on the 27th of this month. The Lanka Premier League cricket tournament will begin with the participation of 5 teams consisting of local and foreign players.
Now, the mechanism of distributing essential goods in the areas where quarantine curfew is in effect continues to be streamlined each day.
The PETA wholesale stores remained open today. Though lorries were not allowed to go near stores yesterday, a limited number of lorries were allowed today. Meanwhile, people who transport goods in the PETA wholesale market face several hardships. This is due to the restrictions imposed on the carts used by them for the transportation of goods. Meanwhile, the people also complained that the tires of their carts had been deflated. Police deflated the tires this morning. The police told us not to use the carts. How are we to survive without doing our job? We are daily wage earners. Now we have to carry these sacks by ourselves. Sri Lanka is a democratic country. The meaning of a democratic nation means you can't violate our rights. They have deflated all the tires without a reason. Then they should close the shops as well. Then we can stay at home. We still didn't receive the 5,000 rupee allowance. They promised to give a 5,000 rupee hamper, but we did not get any of that. To this day, we have not received any relief. We do not need to contract COVID-19 either. We too would love to stay at home. If we have food, implement a better plan that would suit the country's needs.
වල ඉන්න කැමති අපිට කණ්ඩ බොණ්ඩ තියෙනවා නම් පොඩ්ඩක් බලලා රටට සාහනයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් කරන්න.
අපි දන්නවා ඊයේ දවසේ
After it was reported in the news yesterday, everyone's attention, including the President's attention, was drawn to continue the quarantine procedure without going to a lockdown. This reflects the government's intentions to adapt to the new normal and restore normalcy in the country. But even under such circumstances, if the police have deflected the cars of the good carriers in the PETA market, I think it was unnecessary. This should not have been done by a police officer. Taking a vehicle under police custody is different, but the police cannot do any harm to a vehicle. Under the law, we cannot accept such an act. It is an infringement made by police on privacy. Newsfirst made an inquiry about this from the police media spokesperson DIG Adit Rohana. He said the incident is under investigation. Although the Tambuttegama Special Economic Centre was open today, the numbers of farmers who arrived at the location were low. About 30,000 kilograms of vegetables that were expired during the last few days were seen dumped there today. Meanwhile, the Katugastota Manik Kumuram Special Economic Centre also had a low turn-up of traders and customers during the day.
People residing in Boralas Gamua and Bokuntara gathered at the respective Grama Niladhari offices since this morning with the hope of obtaining the 5,000 rupee allowance. The crowds later complained, however, that although they were notified last night to arrive at the Grama Niladhari offices today, they were not presented with the 5,000 rupee allowance. A tense situation arose following the arrival of the Grama Niladhari. Why have you gathered here? They say the divisional secretary has announced it. No such announcements have been made. It was announced by the municipal council according to my knowledge. We cannot help you out. The municipal council has notified. Not even the divisional secretary was informed. I spoke to him. There is no need to move about, especially with COVID-19 spreading. Even the government will face certain difficulties. So will we. A meeting was organized at the Casbah Municipal Council Hall today to discuss the situation. The meeting was headed by Minister Gamani Lokuge. We will complete this task as soon as possible. Officials need to make certain decisions with diligence because the public representatives will be slandered in the end. So act while keeping our dignity intact. The government made a policy decision and announced yesterday that if there are any workers who are from other provinces working in the Colombo district, to register themselves with the Grama Niladhari in those respective areas so that the 5,000 rupee allowance could be doled out to them. We do not say everyone will get the 5,000 rupees. The minister addressed the media following the meeting. We notified them through Grama Niladharis that we will provide the allowance according to the old register.
Director General of Government Information Nalaga Kalueva confirmed that 5 COVID-19 deaths were reported in the country today. The deceased were residents of Colombo 2, Colombo 12, 14, 15 and Vallampitia. A 46-year-old male from Colombo 2 had died at the Pimbura Base Hospital yesterday. The victim was exposed to COVID-19 and was being treated in hospital and was suffering from chronic kidney disease. A 68-year-old woman from Vallampitia was admitted to the National Hospital in Colombo for chest pain and died yesterday. A 58-year-old woman from Colombo 12 had died at her residence, and a post-mortem PCR test revealed she was exposed to COVID-19. The cause of the death was ruled as a COVID-19 related cardiac arrest. A 73-year-old woman from Colombo 14 had died at her residence, and a post-mortem PCR test revealed she was exposed to COVID-19. The cause of the death was ruled as COVID-19 related lung infection. A 74-year-old male from Colombo 15 had died at his residence, and a post-mortem PCR test revealed he was exposed to COVID-19. The cause of death was ruled as COVID-19 related cardiac arrest. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunaratna had confirmed these 5 deaths are related to COVID-19, and accordingly the total number of COVID-19 deaths in Sri Lanka rose to 29.
COVID-19 patients were identified from a number of areas in Colombo today, including the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children, Valikada Prison, Sri Lanka Customs and the Central Mail Exchange in Colombo. 138 COVID-19 patients reported from the Colombo municipality. 7 COVID-19 patients are identified from the Valikada prison. The patients are 1 prison officer, 2 male inmates and 4 female suspects. According to Prisons Commissioner Chandana Ekanayaka, 6,350 PCR tests have been conducted at prisons situated across the island. 3 COVID-19 patients reported from the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children. The director of the hospital said 2 infants and a mother had tested positive at the hospital. He added 20 COVID-19 patients reported from the hospital are infants. 8 officers employed at the port gates of the Sri Lanka Customs have also tested positive for COVID-19. 75 people have been directed for quarantine as well. The Central Mail Exchange in Colombo was closed until further notice today after 2 staff members tested positive for COVID-19. Postmaster General Ranjit Aryaratna said 30 staffers of the Central Mail Exchange have been directed for quarantine as a result. The Isurupaya building in Batrumulla, which was closed down due to the detection of a COVID-19 patient, was reopened today after the premises was disinfected based on directives by health authorities. Meanwhile, police spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana said over 200 police officers have contracted COVID-19.
A number of police officers in the Western Province have tested positive for the virus. These police officers were sent for treatment immediately, and officers who worked with them were sent to quarantine centres. The Inspector General dispatched police officers from other areas to work at these police stations in the Western Province. These police stations will not be closed down for any reason. The services provided by these police stations will not be hindered in any way.
Senior DIG Deshabanda Tenokon visited the Boralla police station and inquired into the situation there.
At the first step in protecting our police officers against a backdrop where a considerable number of police officers have contracted the virus, we launched a program to have our officers inhale steam infused with herbal products from the Yakkala Rajapaksa apothecary. The remaining police officers at the Boralla police station will be given an opportunity to inhale this steam today.
The importance of rapid testing to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country was first highlighted in the month of April. This is how health sector trade unions highlighted the importance of rapid testing. The testing mechanism needs to be liberated from this reactive thinking. We must introduce a testing mechanism where we trace and test potential patients as much as possible. We are not carrying out random tests at present, but we believe that we must commence random testing as soon as possible. The PCR testing process cannot be used for random testing. The testing mechanism should be opened up for public accessibility. It needs to go to the villages across district borders. The public should be able to access the test within a short distance from where they reside. Few months after these sentiments were expressed, random testing has now begun. Steps have been taken to use the antigen test for this purpose.
As per the advice of the World Health Organization, the Minister of Health Pavitra Vanniyarachi recommended that we conduct rapid testing in Sri Lanka. We made a request for that. We have received samples of these antigen tests. These are being tested by our specialists on the virus. After they conclude testing, we will use this test just like the PCR test to identify COVID-19 patients.
PCR වගේම රෝගීන් හඳුනා ගැනීම සඳහා යොදවා ගන්න.
එතකොට මේ පරීක්ෂාව
This test can be conducted very fast. The PCR tests take around 6 hours, but this test can be done in about 20 to 30 minutes. The PCR test costs around 6,000 rupees, but this has a considerably lesser cost. We believe that these new rapid tests can be used for community screening to assess the situation in certain communities.
අමු සමාජ නීති පරීක්ෂා සීම්ස්ලා මේ අලුත් ක්‍රමවේදය පාවිච්චි කළ හැකි.
Certain factions, however, have raised concerns regarding the transactions which are taking place through the use of antigen testing kits, which are to be used by the Ministry of Health with the backing of the GMOA.
විදේශගත ශ්‍රමිකයෝ ලංකාවට එනකොට
When Sri Lankan expatriates return to the island, they have to purchase tickets along with another package. These people have to be quarantined at a hotel, and these hotels belong to good friends of the members of the government. They are making profits through this. The contract to bring down rapid testing kits to Sri Lanka has been handed over to the company of a person who owns a television network and is a very close ally of the government. This company has placed large orders for these testing kits. These rapid testing kits are purchased by Sri Lanka at an exorbitant price. Now the people are stuck in superstition while the royal family is using science. They say that they will sacrifice themselves to sea to save the people, and some of them threw pots into the river. They use superstition to protect the people, but on the other hand use science to protect the royal family. We heard that the COVID-19 vaccine that was given by China is being injected to members of VVIP families. They have injected themselves with vaccines purchased at $140. They can inject themselves with any vaccine from China. That is all right, but they must provide the people with the health services that are required.
ඩොලර් 70 එන්නත ගහගන්න පුළුවන්. ගහන එන්නතක් ඒගොල්ලෝ ගහගත්තට අපිට කමක් නැහැ. හැබැයි ජනතාවටත් අවශ්‍ය සෞඛ්‍ය පහසුකම් ටික දෙන්න ඕන. වෛද්‍ය පරීක්ෂණ ආයතනයේ අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරයා සමහර සුද්ධජීවීවේදීන් ඒ වගේම සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වාසය
The director of the MRI, certain microbiologists, the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health, the GMOA and other parties made it seem as if this antigen and antibody test was more deadly than the virus itself. The Ministry of Health, which is one of that stance, then suddenly began a conversation about rapid antigen and antibody tests. We have received information that 2 companies have sent stocks of these test kits to the island. We have an issue here. How was one company granted permission to import these test kits which the Ministry of Health detested? Permission was not even granted by the National Medicines Regulatory Authority to bring down samples of these test kits earlier.
තොගයක් එක සමාගමක් යටතේ ලංකාවට එන්නේ කියන ප්‍රශ්නය අපිට මතුවෙනවා. මේ රටේ මේ විවසන තත්වය දඩමීමක් කරගෙන පොරදියේ මාළු බාන තත්ත්වයක් අපට පේනවා. සමහරක් ව්‍යාපාරික
We can see them using the volatile situation in the country as a political tool. Certain businessmen are hiding behind politicians and are attempting to further their interests. A single company that has been granted permission to bring down more than 200,000 antigen test kits, which tender process was followed to award these companies the contract.
සමාගමකට ලබා දීමක් කළා තියෙනවා. මේ සමාගම් දෙක තුනක් තමයි මේ සියල්ලම සිද්ධ කරන්නේ. මේ සමාගමට දීපු ක්‍රමවේදය මොකද්ද? ටෙන්ඩර් පටිපාටිය මොකද්ද?
Attention has been drawn towards amending costs of public transportation, taking into account the volatile situation in the country due to COVID-19.
කොවිඩ් ප්‍රතිපත්තිය අපි එනවනම් එතකොට අපිට තීරණයක් ගන්න වෙයි එක සීට් එකක එක්කෙනෙක්.
If we are to pay attention towards the policy, we are to follow in line with COVID-19. One person will only be seated in one seat. That means only one person will travel on a seat 2 people can sit on. In that case, one person will not have to pay for both seats, only 1.5. That cannot be followed for a prolonged period. Hand sanitizers will also be hung on the doors. We will implement a QR code which will enable us to identify passengers which travel on a bus. That process is underway. When the health authorities say that there is no risk of COVID-19 spreading in the area, we will revert to the normal process and the normal cost. there won't be a sudden increase in the price of tickets. It will increase gradually because we need to consider the situation of bus owners as well.
සාධාරණ වැඩිවීමක් මොකද බස් හිමියා ගැනත් අපි කල්පනා කරන්න ඕනේ.
පැහැදිලිවම කියන්න ඕනේ මේ වන විටත් අපිට තියෙනවා බස් ගාස්තුවක්.
We have a standard charge already. We can charge 1.5 times more than the standard cost based on the Gazette notification issued by the Ministry of Health. Accordingly, the cost of 12 rupees will increase to 18 rupees. But we put forth a recommendation to increase it to 20 rupees.
එතකොට මේදී රුපියල් 12 ගාස්තුව රුපියල් 18 වෙනවා ඉබේම. නමුත් අපි ඒ 20ක් දක්වා වැඩි කරන්න යෝජනාවක් කරා.
Although quarantine curfew is in effect in several parts of the country, including the Western Province, the Inland Revenue Department states that its services, including the issuance of tax certificates and the provision of tax-related services, will be implemented online. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue stated that facilities have been provided for citizens to pay their taxes as well.
2019-2020 තක්සේරු වර්ෂය. ඒ කියන්නේ 2019
The deadline for the report of the assessment report for 2019-2020 was set for the 30th of November, but we have extended it by 3 months. We will not fine or charge extra from any person who submit their report before the 28th of February. Considering the situation in the country, we have made this decision since audits cannot be conducted at the moment.
පෙබරවාරි 28 දිනය දක්වා
Gammadda Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
COVID-19 has brought forth a plethora of challenges. However, we continue to encounter humans with an indomitable spirit who face these challenges head-on and survive. Today, we direct your attention towards a group of people who continue to ensure the city of Colombo remains clean despite COVID-19.
අපි උදේ පාන්දර වැඩට එනවා ගෙදරින් අතපය සෝදලා ඔක්කොම කරගෙන එන්නෙත් මාස් එක දාගෙන ගෙදර ඉඳලම ගලවන්නෙම නැහැ. ඒ ගලවන්නේ නැතුව අතපය වල අර බෙහෙත් එක ගන්නවා. බෙහෙත් ගාගෙන මාස් බ්ලවුස් දානවා. අපේ ධෛර්යය අපි හිතෙන් ධෛර්යය අරගෙන අපිට කවන්නේ ඕන දෙයක් කියලා අපි ආරක්ෂා යුතුව අපේ රස්සාව අපි කරනවා.
Can you even comprehend the state of a city if they do not toil hard to ensure its cleanliness? Are they not an apt example of people who continue to stand tall in the face of severe adversity?
Gammadda Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
You're watching Primetime News. We'll have more news for you after this short break. Stay tuned.
Hello, Shaniwata Kohamadada.
Doctor Matada ටිකක් සනීප නෑ වගේ.
In partnership with the Ministry of Health and GMOA, you can video call a government doctor from the safety of your home. This is a free government service. Medical care and attention come straight to you. If required, the doctor will send you a prescription directly on the ODOC app. You can have your medicines delivered to your home. Avoid crowded hospitals and stop the spread of the virus. Video channel a doctor from right where you are. Download the ODOC app today.
Welcome back to the news. Now, Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Gopa Bagle says the speedy implementation of the Colombo Port East Terminal project is the best way to expand Indo-Sri Lanka ties. Meanwhile, Indian media reported that Sri Lanka has entered into a preliminary agreement with the Adani Business Group of India for the implementation of the Eastern Terminal project.
The news had been reported by a number of media outlets, including Bloomberg and NDTV. Citing an unnamed source, it was reported that Adani Port and the Special Economic Zone Company and a regional partner had received policy approval to sign an agreement with the Sri Lankan Port Authority, which owns a majority stake in the project. We are unaware of such an agreement. The previous government had signed an MOU with Japan and India in 2019. That is all. We as the Sri Lanka Ports Authority are unaware of such an agreement apart from that. It has not happened either. 3 gantry cranes have been installed at the ECT. We commenced operations at the ECT around 10 days ago. The SLPA will continue its operations as usual.
So when I was wondering how to start and what to say, I thought that given the topic, which is deepening India-Sri Lanka ties, I thought half seriously that it might perhaps suffice for me to just say that in the present situation, at the present stage, perhaps the best way to deepen the India-Sri Lanka ties is to implement quickly the deep port project of East Container Terminal and rest my case with that. Sri Lanka is a hub of connectivity through shipping, and it also aspires to be a hub for energy. That is among the priorities, the economic priorities of the new government as we hear it in Sri Lanka. So I think Sri Lanka is in a great position, and India is also in a great position to leverage the shipping links and also build new facilities here, which can include the LNG facilities such as an FSRU to provide clean energy, green energy, which will also do very well and go well with Sri Lanka's image and attraction as a major tourist destination.
Sri Lanka is technically a non-aligned country. While technically remaining a non-aligned country, we want to remain neutral. And number two, while remaining a neutral country, we want to maintain friendly relations with every country. Number three, we don't want to be caught up in this power game. Now, and number four is we will not allow any of our territory, either on land or at sea, to be a threat to any other country. We will not allow anything, national assets of our country or at sea, to be a strategic threat to another country. And number five is critically important to India and Sri Lanka. We cannot be, we should not be a strategic security concern to India. Period. We have to understand the importance of India in the region, and we have to understand Sri Lanka is very much in the maritime security and air security umbrellas of India. Period.
We have received reports and are being given hints that the ECT is going to be handed over to the Adani Group. We would like to remind the government of the struggle we carried out in the past. We emphasized on the need to protect this. We wrote to the authorities. We constructed this using Sri Lankan technology. Local engineers designed the terminal. We do not need technical assistance from other nations. There is no point in allowing other entities to reap the benefits of this terminal. The revenues should be collected by the SLPA. The SAGT belongs to the SLPA. If we combine the SAGT and the ECT, we can convert this into the best terminal in the region. We regret the decision made in hindsight without realizing the importance of these resources. Newsfirst is aware of the invisible entity which is orchestrating the attempt to sell off the ECT, a resource which bears vital geopolitical importance. We will not hesitate to reveal the details of this entity. What is the obstacle that is preventing local authorities from operating this national asset for the benefit of this nation?
Meanwhile, an online bilateral discussion was held between the Communist Party of China and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. The discussion was held with the intervention of the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka. The Belt and Road Initiative Sri Lanka Twitter handle tweeted, quote, China Communist Party and Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna successfully completed an advanced seminar on governance experience, unquote. Minister Namal Rajapaksa tweeted, quote, honoured to be a part of the CPC flag of China and SLPP flag of Sri Lanka Advanced Seminar on Governance Experience hosted by the China Embassy of Sri Lanka, together with the Podujana Party. This aims to develop institutional cooperation on a political level and at a people level. On a daily basis, we hear various forms of rackets. While we may not see the significance of such details being revealed, it should be kept in mind that various rackets of this nature could larger, more severe implications. This is a report of a sand racket that involves the carbon ink of a pen being erased when exposed to heat.
This incident was reported from West Mantei in Mana. The sand license that has been signed with a carbon pen has been exposed to heat and has been altered. This information came to light during raids that were carried out by the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau. The license owner has used a special pen to mark the date on the location on the license document, which can later be erased and altered using a lighter, creating a loss of approximately 50,000 rupees to the government. According to reports, the racket has been carried on for a prolonged period of time. The police have arrested 3 people over this racket and further investigations are currently underway.
Sri Lanka's stock market displayed steady growth today by gaining 1.66% and recording a 3-week high turnover of more than 4 billion rupees.
The all-share price index gained 98.20 basis points to close at 6,004.11, while the S&P SL20 gained 1.28%, 29.57 basis points higher to close at 2,347.40. Turnover was recorded at 4,280,404,111, the highest in 3 weeks.
There was a significant upsurge in the index today, with the index climbing by around 93 points during the day and surpassing the 6,000 mark again during the last 3 to 4 weeks. What we are seeing is a significant bullish sentiment in the market, mainly driven by the retail investors. If you take the turnover, saw the turnover exceeding 4 billion mark after a long time. We are seeing that investors are now getting used to the mindset of the coronavirus and having to be within that environment. So confidence levels are now significantly improving. Selling pressure seems to be significantly lower. However, if you take the foreigners were onto the selling side again. We've seen over 300 million of net foreign outflow for today. However, the foreign participation is significantly low comparably. That is mainly because of the huge rise in the local activity. We've seen a number of trades again exceeding 30,000 to reach around 32,000 today. So this is a positive trend that we are seeing at the moment.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka sold less than half the T-bills offered at the CBSL's weekly auction yesterday, while receiving bids worth 52.3 billion rupees, just 1.3% of what was offered. At the weekly T-bill auction, only 19 billion rupees was accepted out of the total amount offered of 40 billion rupees. The auction saw undersubscription in all 3 maturities.
Well, the whole of the world as well as the entire US awaits for the next president to be named. Now, what's the latest from the US election? Let's cross over to Chaturanga and Jayamal, who's at the newsroom, for a comprehensive report. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Joel, and a very good evening to all our viewers. The US presidency continues to hang in the balance as counting is still underway 2 days after voting ended for the 2020 presidential election. Although an official declaration or an official result has not been released as of yet, we know that Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden is currently in pole position to become the next president of the United States. Against such a backdrop, Joe Biden addressed the nation and his supporters earlier today. Let's take a look.
And now, after a long night of counting, it's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners. Now, every vote must be counted. No one's going to take our democracy away from us. Not now, not ever. America's come too far. America's fought too many battles. America's endured too much to ever let that happen. We, the people, will not be silent. We, the people, will not be bullied. We, the people, will not surrender. My friends, I'm confident we'll emerge victorious.
Those were the views expressed by Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. Although counting is still underway, we do not have a definite winner at the 2020 presidential election. And to tell us a bit more about this precarious situation, we are now joined by Chaturanga Hapuarachi. Very good evening to you, Chaturanga. Chaturanga, can you walk us through as to why an official result is being delayed even after 2 days have lapsed since?
I'll start the story from here. We know that everyone is looking for the key states to come out with their election results. We know Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and now Nevada as well, because Joe Biden is at 254 mark. If he wins Nevada, he will be President of the United States of America. As of right now, the voting percentage is around 90% and 33.1. So basically, we are looking at, this is Idaho, but in Nevada, we are looking at a situation where Joe Biden is in the lead at the moment. So with these numbers, there is a sure chance for Joe Biden to become the US president. However, the story, let me shift my attention to this thing over here, starts from this particular story that President Donald Trump has been trying to do. He has been calling for the votes to be stopped, the countings to be stopped, and to go basically with the result that we have right now. If the counting is stopped, then this state will go to Joe Biden at the moment, and if the counting continues in certain areas, especially in Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia, maybe there is a chance that what happened to Wisconsin may happen to those states as well. Now that is the story in that department. However, what happens in terms of the numbers that Joe Biden has already secured is the problem. We have to draw the attention to Arizona. Now, when we go to this interactive map on this side, Arizona has already been won by Joe Biden, and there is no issue there. He has won the 11 seats. However, the counting is still at 88%, and the margin is about slightly less than 2.
Yes.
So 2%. So whether this may tip, so 80% and the remaining is a large number of votes. So if this also goes away, then Donald Trump has a definite chance of winning. Nevada, as we spoke earlier, is at 75%, and this is a huge number. The remaining 25% can make a big difference, and that is the situation there. If you take the numbers as of right now, even if Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia and Alaska, he would not have 270 to become the president for the second
How does
term.
the balance continue? How is it now? What is the current situation of the electoral college balance now?
Currently it's 264 for Joe Biden and 214 for Donald Trump. This is the current situation. So as we discussed earlier, plus this 6, Joe Biden would reach the 270 mark, becoming the president of the country. Now, again, there is a legal battle going on with this particular tweet I showed you, Stop the Count, that they are asking for the votes to be stopped in the counting to be stopped in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and these two states. When this happens, what is going to happen is Donald Trump, is going to win these states. His argument has some logic to a certain extent. He's asking the mail-in ballots to be stopped at a certain date. He says on 3rd of November is the day of the election, thereby these dates, the mail-in ballot should be stopped on that day. So when we take a look at all of this in terms of the numbers, yes, Joe Biden has a definite chance of winning the US presidential election at the moment. But will Trump resort to support from the Supreme Court? Will he seek legal assistance? And will this go into a legal battle is another question that needs a different argument. However, there is a major delay in terms of Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia for the election results to be announced, and that is because the mail-in ballots are still being counted, and the mail-in ballots that came after the 3rd of November are still being accepted, as in the polling has been closed, but the mail-ins are being counted. So that is why there is a delay in these particular areas as well.
So let us take a hypothetical situation, Chaltranga. Let us state that the Trump campaign does institute legal action against some of these states, which are key battleground states, and Joe Biden does reach 270. However, since there is a legal battle going on, will there be a delay in Joe Biden taking up office as the president?
Definitely, there is a precedent in the past as well where there has been a recount being done, and now we know that President Donald Trump has asked for a recount to take place in Wisconsin as well. We are seeing reports of legal assistance sought in Michigan as well, and definitely in Pennsylvania. So we heard the governor of Pennsylvania as well speaking about this. So these 3 states, if either of these states are taken up for a recount, there is a chance that the date of the mail-in ballot acceptance may be changed by the Supreme Court. However, that's up to the US judicial system. As of right now, the numbers tell us that Joe Biden is ahead. However, if there is a legal case, that will definitely delay the final outcome and definitely delay or change rather this situation in favor of either candidate.
Finally, Chaturanga, let me ask you, do you know of a definite time when an official declaration, an official result might be released as to who the next president would be?
No, Jamal, I do not know a time frame that can be announced. I'm just following what is available.
Even from what analysts have predicted?
So they are looking at the Pennsylvania results mainly, and that seems like it's going to be definitely not tomorrow. It might even go up till next week. So we are looking at a situation where this is the usual case. Why it's important this time around is simply because there is a lot of mail-in ballots that have been sent because the Democrats asked for people to vote through mail.
Due to COVID-19?
Due to COVID-19. So that seems to be the situation, but of course we will keep our viewers updated.
Thank you, Chaturanga, for apprising us of the current situation, and that is all we have for you tonight. It's back to the studio with Joel.
Well, thank you very much, Jamal and Chaturanga, for bringing that report on the US elections. On that note, we wrap this edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for stopping by. More news follows on our website. That is www.newsfirst.lk. Take care. Be safe.